The idea that states are able to do this, the idea that the politicians, the idea they're emptying their prisons, the idea that we have, the idea that those people are patriots, the idea that I did anything wrong, the idea that you have a right, and the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran, and the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, the idea that we're not doing any, I put more, the idea that anything he said is true, the idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous.
Well, I've got an idea. Let's talk to Jennifer about this disaster from last night. Joining me now, Jennifer Galardi, culture, health, and policy writer, former Democrat, I might note. Okay, Jennifer, please explain to me how you can rest for a week, get drugged up on God only knows whatever they gave him, endless amounts of prep, and still be that bad. Is he just a cadaver now? Is that it?
I mean, the idea that any of us were subject to that, really, really atrocious. I mean, yeah, it's bad. And you know what? I somewhat blamed you. I was disheartened and I was sad when I went to bed last night, a little bit when I woke up this morning. I was going to skip watching this because I had a funny feeling it was going to be as bad as it was. And I said, you know what? I can't handle it. I'm too depressed already about the state of the world. And then Matt called me up. He said, do you want to go on the show? And I said, oh, fine, I'll do it for you, but you owe me a beer because my whole weekend is ruined now. But, you know, I can't say anything more than everybody's already said, right? You know, we see it in front of our own eyes. I'm sad and disheartened. Obviously, anybody who's human and has a heart has to feel for the guy. Whoever is responsible for taking care of him, who's his loved ones that are standing by his side through this Joe Biden should be ashamed of herself. I mean, honestly, I have a family member about Joe Biden's age going through a similar situation with early Alzheimer's or dementia, and it's the saddest thing to watch. It's really, really hard. So obviously that made me sad, and then a little bit angry to see that people are still perpetuating this lie, but also made me sad for the country and really disheartened. Like this morning, I thought about how lost we are. This debate seemed to be a reflection of where we are as a society. And by that, I mean, I feel like we're going through a second COVID, right? How easily the media will lie and how easily our country believes these lies. And then when they're caught in the lie, right? Oh, Joe Biden's fine. He's so sharp behind the scenes. And we see Maloney having to take him, pull him back. And we see all the gaffes and the falls and everything we're seeing and don't believe your lying eyes. And when they're caught, they take no accountability. Oops, how did we know? We didn't know. Well, some of us knew. A lot of us have known. And then we forget about it all. And then we move on to the next horse and pony show. I feel like that debate, Trump had a pretty low bar to hurdle over, and he did fine. He hit on immigration and he hit on inflation and the economy, which are all very important, and these matter to people. But I feel like everybody's missing the big picture. And there was no mention of the ideological capture of our institutions and the bureaucracy, which has fueled every terrible policy of this administration. It has fueled immigration. It has fueled the transgender ideas. And I feel like it's all leading us down a very dehumanizing and a very unhealthy path. Biden mentioned there's more billionaires and millionaires in the country than ever, and they need to pay their fair share. Well, there was no mention of COVID and the greatest transfer of wealth this country has ever seen in the past 4 years. No mention of that. No mention of our country being 75% obese, or well, maybe not obese, 75% overweight, almost half obese. No mention of the brainwashing of our kids, the grooming of our children. And I feel like we're just too sick and dumb and numb to recognize or delusional to acknowledge any of this. And I feel that we've been duped and we're constantly being duped and no one's seeing it. I feel like, we're missing the point. Again, this all felt, Trump did fine. And I think he hit on some of the things, but I feel like last night was really a reflection of our own confusion and our own state of delusion.
No, I tend to agree with you on that. Now, I mean, electorally, that was probably a smart way to handle it. But the truth is we have this brain tumor and we just keep popping ibuprofen for it instead of actually digging into the real problem And we can never win. It doesn't matter how many debates we win or how many times Joe Biden poops his pants on stage. We just can never win until we get to the tumor, right?
Well, yeah, and I don't even know that it matters who wins at this point, unless we have kind of a change. We're going to, like you said, we're popping ibuprofen. So a stronger border will help crime. Hopefully Trump will get at some of the rot, but I just think it's so embedded and we're so far down this path that we need to take a good, hard look. How did we get to the point where Joe Biden is up on that stage debating Donald Trump? I am obviously going to vote for Donald Trump, but he wouldn't have been my first choice. I'm a little more conservative and I'm happy to compromise in certain things. But we no longer have anybody sticking up for life in this country. When he mentioned the abortion pill, I was like, wow. So I don't know unless we, you talk about this a lot, unless we get more involved locally, the local school boards. Like I said, if I had a home right now, I'd be happy to run for something. I'm still kind of figuring out where I'm going to live if I can manage living this close to DC. But, we're so distracted. Again, I felt like this debate was a distraction, and it's everything we've already heard. There were no new arguments being made here.